Welcome in to News and Views with Tom Lamprecht. The stories you've heard and the ones you need to hear.
Our economy has gone from being on the mend to on the move.
They took an economy and drove it into the ground.
Ultra MAGA Republicans.
Here I am, Nancy Pelosi, saying this country needs a strong Republican Party, not a cult.
And now Elon Musk.
It was not correct to ban Donald Trump.
Your life, your values, your voice. This is News and Views with Tom Lamprecht on Talk 96.3 and 103.7.
All right, welcome in. It is News and Views for a Wednesday. Lots to talk about today. And before we get into the news, let me just say a lot of you are looking forward to the concert on the Common in downtown Greenville with the Chicago tribute band, Chicago Rewired. We needed to make a decision, and we needed to make it quick before people started driving and committing and setting up. It's a big deal. So because of the weather forecast looking pretty dicey for tomorrow with possible rain and wind, that is going to be rescheduled. So the Chicago Rewired, we don't know when it's going to be. As soon as we've got a date, we'll announce it. But the Chicago Rewired concert concert on the Common is postponed. It will take place, and we'll let you know, but as soon as we have a date. The Democrat-led bill to guarantee abortion access nationwide failed earlier today in the Senate. It just took place not too long ago. Kamala Harris came in thinking that she might need to be the tiebreaker, but Joe Manchin held his he said he wasn't going to vote for it, and he held made his stance properly. Some people thought Kristen Sinema, now she said she would not vote to end the filibuster. I don't know that she ever said she would not vote for this Women's Health Protection Act. But one of the reasons why Joe Manchin was against this is cut to, Clark, is because this bill was not just codifying Roe v. Wade. It was a lot more extreme than that. Here's Joe Manchin from earlier today before the vote was taken. Cut two.
The bill we have today to vote on, the Women's Health Protection Act, and I respect people who support, but make no mistake, it is not Roe v. Wade codification. It's an expansion. It wipes 500 state laws off the books. It expands abortion. And with that, that's not where we are today. We should not be dividing this country further than we're already divided. And it's really the politics of Congress that's dividing the country. It's not the people. They're telling us what they want. And it's just disappointing that we're going to be voting on a piece of legislation which I will not vote for today.
National Review did a pretty thorough job of going through the bill and talking about how it was a lot more it was a lot more pro-abortion, a lot less pro-life than you could imagine. I mean, it made Roe v. Wade look okay. I mean, it was bad. For one thing, now Roe v. Wade was limited in how long you could do abortions. It started out you couldn't do it past the third trimester. And then when the other bill came in, they what was the second bill? Planned Parenthood versus Casey.
Yeah, Casey.
That basically said, okay, it's really going to be a viability issue. But this bill that they wanted to pass the Senate, it would allow abortion all 9 months of the pregnancy, right up to the time of birth. And again, and if they were to do that, then it would be commonplace what the former Virginia governor, Ralph Northam, said, that, well, you can have the child on the table, and then we'll decide whether we're going to allow it to live or not, or just let it die.
And I don't think that most Americans, even people that say they're pro-choice, I don't think most pro-choice people go that far.
Well, it's murder. I mean, it's just absolute murder of a living human being. This bill they wanted to put through would also strike down almost all state laws on abortion, including parental consent laws that are supported by 77%, according to Gallup. 77% of Americans would support that a minor would have to get parental permission to have an abortion. They would do away with that. It would gut conscience and religious liberty protections. It would create a right for non-doctors to perform abortions. I mean, that's what they would always scream about is, you want us to go back in the alley with coat hangers. Apparently that was they didn't say it would be coat hangers, but suddenly it's not about a doctor. You're going to have non-doctors, non-MDs doing abortions. It would also prohibit state laws banning sex-selective abortions. There's a law in the books in North Carolina right now that says you're not allowed to have abortion just because you don't like the sex of the child, the gender of the child. And they would have done away with that. So Manchin was right. This was a lot more than just codifying Roe v. Wade. And again, it is so aggravating the way they add these names, or they name these bills, the Women's Health Protection Act.
Yeah. And this, what was it it's been a week. Has it been a week or week and a half? Last Tuesday when the bill, the Supreme Court opinion was leaked.
Right.
So this bill here, it's been in their pocket for a while.
Oh, yeah.
This thing, they were ready.
Oh, yeah.
They were ready to go further and go further than what Roe was. They were ready for it.
Big time.
And, a friend of mine that listens to the program from time to time, we've had disagreements about, if Joe Manchin would save the country on a few issues. He thought he would, and I didn't think he would. And, well, you were right. Joe Manchin has stepped in a couple of times. Now, I'm not going to say Joe Manchin is a conservative, but I do believe that Joe Manchin has some principles that he just won't cross. He won't cross that line. And
well, this is a little scarier too. Now, I don't think they're going to get 60 votes, regardless, which is what they need. But Susan Collins and Lisa Murkowski, a lot of they're pro-choice, and a lot of people were worried. Okay, are they going to hang in there? Are they going to vote with the Republicans? Are they going to vote against this Women's Protection Act? And they did vote against this, but the two of them are coming up with their own bill to codify Roe v. Wade. Mm-hmm. Now, again, they're going to need 60 votes. I don't think they'll get that, but they would get over the 50 majority. I mean, they would get those two, and I think Joe Manchin might vote for something like that. Joe came out and hinted that he couldn't vote for this, but he might vote for something else.
And they don't need 60 if they just trash the filibuster, right? They could do it with a simple majority.
Sinema and Joe Manchin have both said that they are not going to allow the filibuster to slide. So they've been pretty strong on that. Speaking of this whole SCOTUS thing, though, apparently there was another leak today. Now, it wasn't another opinion. It wasn't another case, but it was more information. It was a separate leak, but somebody else has leaked the fact that they had discussions back when prior to this first draft coming out, that Joe Manchin, I've got Joe Manchin on the mind, that John Roberts was going to write his own opinion. He wanted to see Roe stay in effect, but at the same time, he wanted to give states more rights to do what they wanted to do. It sounded like, okay, we're going to keep Roe, but what he wanted to do would be allow the Dobbs case to succeed, that the state of Mississippi could limit the number of weeks that abortions could happen. The 5 other conservative justices said, no, we think Roe is bad law and we're going to do away with Roe. So that information was leaked out today. So that's obviously it's just going to inflame the lefty protesters, the woke crowd. It's also going to probably greatly irritate John Roberts and the rest of the Supreme Court that were not involved in this leak. But again, if you're part of the woke crowd, the ends justify the means.
Mm. Yeah, it will be. Collins and Murkowski. I think they will. If nothing else, they'll have it. They'll have a show, what I call a show bill, just to say that they're pro-choice and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah,
they'll circulate something.
Getting back to local politics, obviously that was the big lead story that just broke just minutes before we went on the air in terms of the vote.
We got local politics?
We got more infighting.
Kind of an election going on, right?
Yeah, we got some electioneering going on, and we've been following pretty closely this first congressional district race. Yesterday we had on Billy Strickland, who was running in that race. And earlier in the week, we talked quite a bit, and was it Monday this story broke, or was it the end of last week? I get my days mixed up, but the whole give and take and the punches that are being thrown between Sandy Robertson and Sandy Smith. Well done, Clark. The Sandy Robertson camp has now sent a letter from their attorneys to the Sandy Smith camp saying, stop airing these lies on your radio and television ads. In the letter, they wrote, in publishing this false advertisement that improperly ties Mayor Robertson, Sandy Robertson, the mayor of Rocky Mount, to the conduct cited, you are not only intentionally deceiving voters, but you're also defaming Mr. Robertson. We therefore demand that you immediately cease and desist from communicating these false and defamatory statements. We also demand an aired retraction acknowledging these statements were false and misleading and apologizing for airing them. In the absence of such retraction, within 24 hours of your receipt of this letter, we reserve the right to pursue litigation on behalf of our client and to report the matter to the appropriate authorities. We hope that these steps will not be necessary. You know, unfortunately for Sandy Robertson, and I'm not an attorney, but I've been in broadcasting for a lot of years, you know, there are certain things that candidates are allowed to say and do. Now, I haven't ever heard of one candidate suing another for false statements. I'm sure it's happened. But if it has happened successfully, you'd be seeing that all the time. I mean, you'd be seeing Pat McCrory's camp right now in federal court or some court suing the Club for Growth and Ted Budd. And by the way, the broadcaster, the people that own the radio stations, they're obligated. They have to air. If you're a federal candidate and you submit an advertisement to a radio station. Now, if it was obscene and didn't pass the FCC requirements, there would be a conflict there that you probably wouldn't have to air it. But when you're making certain statements about another candidate, in other words, Henry Hinton, who's owner of the station, he doesn't have a choice. He has to air these ads. But I just don't. I don't see Sandy Smith retracting what has been said. Now, she might, but I would be surprised if she did. And I just don't see this ending up being successful for Sandy Robertson. We'll see.
Yeah, I've read before on the law on the issue. Of course, I'm no lawyer, but I do know that in campaigns there's a lot more leeway about general things that is said about the other candidate. I think you have to get really, really specific and really personal for it to rise to that level. Again, yeah. I'm not an attorney, but because we see it all the time. We see all the time that things are aired that's just, hey, it's just not true. It's just kind of the way it's spun. So.
Speaking of local politics, the WGHB out of Greensboro has got a new poll out, and not good news for Pat McCrory. Looks like Ted Budd and Donald Trump's chosen candidate in the North Carolina Senate race has built a dominant lead as voters cast their ballots in the Republican primary. Budd, the 13th district representative from Advance, North Carolina, got Trump's endorsement. It is now projected that he has 43% of the Republican vote. So that is an increase, a 5-point increase from the first poll that was conducted in April. I thought it would be more than that, but it is going in the right direction for Ted Budd. It's not going in the right direction for Pat McCrory. So
yeah, it'll be interesting to see. Polls are sometimes they're accurate, sometimes they're not. It'd be interesting to see the independent vote and see where that flows. The independent votes, I think, been pretty high so far, or unaffiliated, not independent, unaffiliated. So it'll kind of be interesting to see on primary day just how many turn out.
Well, what's interesting about this, too, is that negative advertising works. McCrory is down 6 points to 16% from the last poll.
Wow.
Mark Walker is interestingly up just a couple of points. I think last poll he was at 11%. I think he's up to 12% now, or maybe it was 9%. Anyway, he is slightly up. But looks like Ted, if these numbers are right, you're right. There's things could change, but that's a pretty big percentage to have to overcome.
You know, in the other race that you mentioned, the Sandy Smith and Sandy Robertson race, you know, who knows? It may, all this back and forth may open up the door for another candidate. You know, kind of like we just had a Kentucky Derby, kind of like Kentucky Derby. You had the two favorite horses going neck to neck, and they're watching each other, and all of a sudden somebody comes out on that.
It'll be interesting to see what happens. Yeah, that very well could be. And again, one of the things that we talked to Billy Strickland off the air yesterday was, you know, what is his, you know, inside information on. I don't know that he's actually paid for a poll. And of course, you're going to be. You've got to be optimistic. If you're a candidate, you're always optimistic. Yeah. Mm-hmm. I mean, until they say, sorry, bud, you lost, you're going to be optimistic. But he seemed genuinely optimistic when we asked him off the air, you know, what he thought his chances were. And I'd say that of all the races that it really could be a Kentucky Derby situation, it would be that first congressional race, because there's so many people in it. And this infighting between the two Sandys has really made it interesting. And
you know, regardless of who wins in the primary, how much damage is going to be done to the eventual winner when they go against the Democrat nominee in the fall?
Bingo. Hey, we're going to take a time out. We come back, we're going to have another candidate for you. Tony Cowden, who is running in the 3rd Congressional District, will be joining us. Stay with us. More news and views coming up.
Reserve it, then ride home in it at Greenville Toyota. Camrys, Corollas, Tundra trucks, RAV4s, and more are on the way. Reserve yours before it's gone. Plus, get more for your trade. Reserve and ride today at Greenville Toyota.
Hey, we're at Marabella's in Greenville, the new location of Marabella's on Fire Tower Road. If you haven't been to this place yet, let me tell you, you are missing out. I want to introduce my friends from Marabella's. I've got Sal, Massimo, and Pietro here. These guys are awesome. Not only do they make great food, they do a lot of things for the community, which we're going to be talking about. But Sal, let's start with you. Let's talk about the new location of Marabella's on Fire Tower Road. I'm a regular here. I love it. You guys call it Old World Pizza. Tell us what's different about your pizza.
Well, we got two kinds of pizzas. We have the traditional, you know, American style, and then we have the Old World Pizza, which is made with fresh mozzarella. And, you know, the way they do it in Italy.
Massimo, when you talk about doing this food right, it's authentic. And when I talk about authentic, you grew up in Italy, so you grew up with this food. You know how to make it.
Yeah, because we grew up in Italy, we know the ingredient. And everything we do from scratch. And the right ingredient, it's been hard for us to bring over here. And now finally we can get the right ingredient to make a right pizza.
All right, now I'm going to talk to my friend Pietro here at Marabella's. He's got the Nino's shirt on today. We're going to talk about Nino's, which is another great dining experience, upscale dining experience, on another segment upcoming. But Pietro, let's talk about Marabella's. For people who've never been to Marabella's, what's the experience going to be like when they come here? Not only pizzas, but pastas, salads, sandwiches, you got it all.
Yes, we do. We have new sandwiches that we put in this new location, and we're going to spread it to the other locations.
The guys here at Marabella's have won national pizza competitions, so you know it's good. Thanks to Sal, Massimo, and Pietro. Folks, do yourself a favor. Come to the new Marabella's here on Fire Tower Road in Greenville, or Marabella's on Greenville Boulevard, or Marabella's in Washington on Carolina Avenue. Also, don't forget upscale dining at Nino's on Red Banks Road.
Reserve and ride your pre-owned vehicle at Greenville Toyota. Shop a huge selection of quality used cars, trucks, SUVs, even luxury models. All with no charge maintenance, plus a 100,000-mile used car warranty. Reserve and ride at Greenville Toyota.
News and views.
He's kind of a diva.
He's absolutely fascinating.
Ultimate gentleman spy. Irresistible to women, deadly to his enemies, a legend in his own time.
You won't believe what he's going to say next on Talk 96.3 and 103.7. Here's Tom Lempreck.
Welcome back in. It is News and Views for a Wednesday. Today is National Eat What You Want Day. Sounds like my kind of day. I think there might be a hamburger in my future.
Steak.
Looking at your weather forecast tonight, cloudy skies early, then off and on rain showers, likely a low around 55. Tomorrow, cloudy in the morning, scattered thunderstorms in the afternoon, a high of 71. Rain showers tomorrow night and Friday. Thunderstorms likely, a high of Friday on 78. And unfortunately, I'm sorry to tell you this, Saturday looks like rain too. It's not until Sunday we get back into the 80s with sunshine. So will we stay in the 80s, or will it come back? We find ourselves in the 60s, as we seem to find ourselves over and over again. Weather brought to you by our friends at the Ironwood Golf and Country Club. Warmer weather is here. What a better way to enjoy the outdoors with family and friends than being greenside or poolside. Voted best golf course in Greenville 3 years in a row, Ironwood Golf and Country Club is waiving all initiation fees. They want you to join in the fun and become a member today. Not a golfer? Ironwood's new social membership includes access to their competition-sized swimming pool, clay service tennis courts, and member-only full-service restaurant. For more information, contact Membership Director Jenna Doyle. Her number is 252-752-4653. Tony Cowden is running in the Republican primary for the 3rd Congressional District, the U.S. House seat currently held by Dr. Greg Murphy. A race that is not as crowded as the Republican primary for the 1st Congressional District, but still there are 5 candidates in this primary race. He is in studio with us. Tony, welcome in.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
There are a lot of candidates in these races who are seeking office for the first time, which is great. I mean, I'm thinking, this is what when I first came to North Carolina back in the early 80s, hard to believe. I've actually lived more of my life here in North Carolina than I did in Maryland. I'm that's how long I've been down here. But you used to be able to have the Republican convention in a telephone booth, and now we see all kinds of folks running for office, which is a good thing. Tony, is this your first jump into politics?
Certainly. I've spent all my adult life in the military or working for the intelligence agency. And so I've spent quite a bit, a considerable amount of that deployed and focused on that mission.
Well, tell us your story. To give us your background, thank you for your service. Tell us what you've done in the service, your family, your life history, and most of all, why you think you're a good candidate for the congressional seat, the number 3.
Yeah, there's no thanks needed for service. It's an honor to be able to serve. I served as a Green Beret. My dad let me watch Rambo: First Blood when I was way too young, and that set my life goals.
You're making me feel old. You're making me feel old.
Yeah. Well, that's all I ever wanted to do was wear that Green Beret and serve, and I was lucky enough to pass all those selections, that well-known difficult qualification course, and I did it right before 9/11, and that happened, and wound up in Afghanistan a few weeks after that, and from then on out, it was just deployment after deployment. But backing up, I'm from the district. I'm actually the only candidate in this race that is from the district and also lives in the district. With the redistricting, it placed even the incumbent not living in the district anymore. And I from the beginning, I said I would run wherever I lived, and the whole carpetbagging thing and moving around, trying to select districts, that old 4th district that I was originally in, it was, district shopping. Folks from all over the place were trying to run out there. And, clearly we have a little bit of that in this district as well. But I was born and raised in Pamlico County. My dad was in the seafood industry. My uncle and my mom's side of the family, they're all farmers. And, two of the largest industries in the district, pretty familiar. And most of all, familiar with the fact, the overregulation that the fishermen, especially the commercial fishermen, have to deal with. My dad sold his business. He was done in the 90s, and it's only gotten worse for him since. And, they're competing with, for the longest time, they were competing with, the animal rights and the turtles. And now it's actually kind of funny. The fishermen and the turtle folks have actually teamed up against the Green New Deal folks who want to put windmills right off our shores, which create electromagnetic interference. That's how, the fish and the turtles navigate. It's going to disrupt so much. And this Green New Deal stuff, they're just not thinking through the second, third order effects of that stuff. But wound up joining the Army. All that kicked off with the war and everything. 2005, I broke my back and took a fall off a cliff. And
this is related to your service?
Oh yeah. I was deployed at the time, and so didn't think I was going to be able to walk very well again, and if ever. Clearly, the doctors didn't call that one correctly, but I had a flight packet in. I was going to go fly helicopters, and so I thought my career was over. And I'd already done Afghanistan, Iraq. I had a pretty awesome Special Forces career at that point. And I just didn't know where it could go from there. I'd made a lot of friends with the intelligence agency because Special Forces and that side of the government work quite a bit together in wartime. And so I called some friends over there and took a job, and within 8 months, I was running again. And so I went from kind of a analyst-type job to an operational-type job with basically what you would call the paramilitary side of the CIA. And a lot of folks don't understand how that works, but basically the CIA doesn't have a mechanism for creating soldiers. And so when they need them in wartime, they hire out of the special operations community. And so I wound up over there. I'm
just curious, is that considered a second career, or is that...
the mission is so similar. Only the difference is when you're in the military, a lot of times special operations are the main effort, as you would call it. Whereas when we're working for the intelligence agency, a lot of times we're supporting intelligence operations. So can be a little bit of a support role, even though you're still doing the same type of action or missions. But as a contractor, I've remained a contractor because, ironically, I didn't want to live in Northern Virginia. And when you work full-time with the CIA, that puts you in Northern Virginia, which, like I said, is kind of funny because here we are as I'm applying with Eastern North Carolina for a job in D.C. But
you can commute.
Yeah, right. I think
get a sleeping bag and commute back and forth.
I think a lot of the representatives, they certainly, they forget that they need to get out in the district. As I go around the district, especially in the outer areas, the more rural areas, the fishing communities in Hyde, Dare, Pamlico, down east, they've never seen or heard from their representative, and they're angry about it.
Well, geographically, it's a huge district. It's got to be. If you did the smallest, I grew up in Baltimore, and some of those districts were a couple of city blocks, and you come down here, and it's bigger than the state of Delaware, probably.
Don't quote me on this one, but the word on the street is that the 3rd district is the 4th largest district in the country.
Wow.
I can't confirm that 100%, but even still, if it's in the top 10, it's still huge.
And we're going to take a time out. Stay with us. We're going to be back with more with Tony Cowden, who's running for the 3rd congressional district. We got 1st and 3rd as minimum 1st and 3rd with 2 outs. Stay with us. You got Election Day next Tuesday, so get ready for it. We'll be right back.
107.9 WNCT welcomes you to Concert on the Common.
Coming up May 12th, it's Chicago Rewired, the ultimate Chicago tribute band.
Don't miss Concert on the Common.
Uptown Greenville on Thursday, May 12th.
Fantastic Sam's Cut and Color is hiring stylists. If you're driven, creative, and ready to make an impact, then we're looking for you. We offer competitive salaries, flexible schedules, and professional training with the newest technologies and equipment in the industry. Stop by your local Fantastic Sam's today and show us what you've got. Apply at locations in Goldsboro, Kinston, Greenville, New Bern, Morehead City, Jacksonville, and Calabash. Fantastic Sam's, real salon experience, real savings, real fantastic.
Well, folks, it's only 8 a.m. and it's going to be another hot one. Today's high is 85 degrees with lows ranging in the upper 50s. Tomorrow's more of the same, plus some light wind coming in from the northeast. Coming up at 8:30, Paul's got an exclusive
Babe, it's 8 a.m.
Fried chicken, better with Pepsi.
The best burgers around. Everyone loves a thick, juicy, and fresh burger. Tiebreakers in Greenville, plus the all-new Tiebreakers in Winterville. Do real burgers better than anybody. So don't just go to any burger-themed restaurant chain. It's time to break the chain and eat local. Tiebreakers, real burgers at its best.
Everybody loves burgers.
Air Service is back at Pitt Greenville Airport, offering safe, clean facilities and flights from American Airlines. That means the short commute, quicker lines, and better prices that get you where you're going fast and easy. See it for yourself. There's great things inside at Pitt Greenville Airport.
This is your Drive at 5 and ENC with Tom Lamprecht. Welcome back to News and Views on Talk 96.3 and 103.7.
And welcome back in. Next Tuesday is primary day. Tony Cowden, who is running for the 3rd Congressional Republican slot to run for Congress in November, is in studio with us. Tony, if you had to pick just one issue that you would say is the most important as it relates to preserving our freedoms and liberties as a country, if you can get it down to one issue, and that's a tough question because there's probably 4 or 5 on that you'd like to spout off, but what's the single biggest thing you think?
Well, that's actually not that difficult, though it includes hundreds of sub-issues. It's returning our federal government back to its constitutional left and right limits. Yeah. The Constitution is plain as day what it authorizes the federal government to do and what it leaves to the states, from the Board of Education to name an agency, OSHA, CDC, all of them. There's not one place in our Constitution that authorizes those things. That's all states' rights stuff. It's the federal government has just been grown and grown and grown. No limits on spending, no limits on taxation, and our so-called representatives, right? The word representative is supposed to be an advocate of the people of their district. Well, they go to D.C., they get wrapped up in party politics, and instead of working for the people they represent, they start working for the Speaker of the House or the party, and that's just politics. That's what we've all been told. Yeah. We have to accept this, and it's not the case. If the representatives put forth the Constitution first and a true effort of returning our nation and our government back to the Constitution, it could be done quickly. But there's no money or motivation to do so.
How would you get to that point? What would you do to invigorate folks to get back to the Constitution?
Well, clearly there's a demand for it. The people want it. The people are tired of our federal government. They're tired of our representatives blowing their money. I mean, emergency relief, for the Ukraine yesterday for another 40 mil.
Bill,
excuse me. I say mil? Yeah, no, billion. All the while, here we are struggling. Average people can't pay their gas bills.
No, we don't have baby formula.
Yeah, like I said, I had to sell a truck because I couldn't afford diesel fuel for it. And that's nothing. Heck, I was talking with Chris Fulcher, a fisherman in Pamlico County. He had to fill up one of his shrimp boats, $75,000 in diesel fuel, right? And the boat wasn't empty. Yeah, so, the people.
That's a lot of shrimp.
It's just like term limits, right? The people, both sides want it. Yeah. And so why don't we get it? Because the representatives are fighting it. Over half of the representatives that claim they want their 4 term limits, they would lose their jobs if they actually did a amendment.
I've said for a long, long time, go ahead and grandfather those people in. Just so we could pass it. I mean, if you grandfathered them in, perhaps they'd vote for it. I'd be willing to do that.
I mean, like I said, they're supposed to be our representatives. And at this point, it's clear that they're just not.
Tony, on your website, looking at a couple of your issues that you talk about, to your point, balancing the budget, tax reform, that type of thing. The federal budget, 2021, we had record federal tax revenue. And most people, Democrats, Republicans alike, that are not elected to office, 66% of our budget is Social Security, Medicare, and Medicaid. So without health care reform and Social Security reform, we really can't move the needle, regardless if we have a 100% tax rate. So what's your ideas on reforming health care and Social Security to make Social Security viable for what it was for?
Well, over half of Medicare and Medicaid isn't actually given to the people in care. It's administrative costs, it's bureaucracy. If we had folks that actually ran our government like it was a business, like they were spending their own money, all that would go away. Medicaid and Medicare could be cut in half and still be as efficient, if not more efficient, than it's ever been. It's just the fraud, waste, and abuse that we see. It's simply because our representatives don't care enough to fix it. The big pharma, let's face it, when it comes to Medicare and Medicaid, the hospitals, big pharma, and that's what we're fighting here with the incumbent. He supports Obamacare. He's all for it and has been. And he protects that, hospital and Medicare, Medicaid protections. That whole transparency, hospital billing transparency, has fought it and fought it. A representative, they're not supposed to represent corporations. They're supposed to represent their constituents. And that's the problem we have here in Eastern North Carolina as we speak. But yeah, it's just more intelligent allocation of funds, oversight, and some accountability. It's absolutely insane how they just spend money, I don't know, like it's not theirs.
So should we send that 2/3 Social Security, Medicare, Medicaid back to the states and let that be a state issue? Or?
Absolutely. I am very much a states' right person. Like I said, the Constitution clearly defines what the federal government was and was not authorized to do. And nowhere in the Constitution does it talk about health care, right? Now, and I always say this, there is clearly a legal means to amending the Constitution. We've done it a few times, right? Like when they wanted to do an income tax. A lot of Americans don't know that it's only been just over 100 years that there was a federal income tax.
Right.
And it took a constitutional amendment to get it, and they exploited nationalism and patriotism to talk the American public into it. And now it's a monster.
In 2016, Donald Trump was in the White House. We led the Senate and we led the House of Representatives,
right,
and nothing was done. Let's just say 2000 this year, we have the majority. Tony Cowden's in the House of Representatives. Mm-hmm. What are you going to do?
Yeah, you asked me to start out with, Tom. Why am I running? That's why I'm running. A lot of folks, we're clearly upset with liberals, the progressives, but the Republicans that have laid down and compromised and compromised and compromised for decades, that's why I'm running. When I looked at the incumbent's voting record, it was clear as day that when we do reestablish that Republican stronghold in all three branches again, we're just going to see another repeat, just another repeat where they don't repeal Obamacare, where they don't repeal gun rights, infringements on our gun rights. So one of the biggest things I have going for me, because let's be realistic, right? A freshman congressman, what exactly kind of power do they yield? Well, individually, not much. But there are 8 Green Berets, to include myself, 6 Navy SEALs, and 32 global war on terrorism veterans who are all fed up and running for the exact same reasons I am.
How about that?
So if half of us get elected, you're talking about, and 3 of those Green Berets are here in North Carolina, kind of a pretty amazing thing, which is probably explainable.
We are a military state, obviously.
For Special Forces and Green Berets, all roads lead to Fort Bragg. But, that's a caucus. If half of us, if a third, 10 of us global war on terrorism veterans get elected, that's serious influence.
Let me ask you a couple of hard questions that if you win the primary, you're going to be asked in the general election.
For sure.
First off, you've got a public record, as we all do, and this is public information that you have the public record says possible criminal records 50 found. How are you going to explain that in the general election?
Well, the cool thing is we've already got it out of the way. The incumbent, since he can't defend his horrible voting record, he's gone nasty and just tried to attack me on my record, which was kind of funny because we had already put it out when we were running in the 4th District, but more so back up 25 years when I filled out my first SF-86, which is the questionnaire for security clearance.
Mm-hmm.
I've maintained 3 different types of top secret security clearances in 3 different government agencies for the last 23 and 18 years. So the answer is you can't have these types of clearances and be a criminal. I was charged with some stuff and it was all thrown out. Very, very plausible. Really
but 50
simple
times?
answer. Well, so if you look at a background check, every time a speeding ticket goes to court, right, it's continued. So I get a speeding ticket, I deploy. Lawyer continues it till I get back, right? Every time it went to court and it was continued, it's on that record. On that record that was put out, same one I put out as well, there are different charges on there that aren't mine. Those, and if you read at the top of all those records, it says, there's a disclaimer, you cannot trust this information. You actually have to go to the courthouses and pull public records. So when you do that, you find that some of them aren't mine. There's a Anthony Wayne Scott Cowden in Fayetteville, North Carolina. And he's got like 170 different charges. He's been in prison. And a couple of his charges are actually on that background check that the incumbent and his camp was pushing around.
Let me ask you another question that's a little sticky. On the Lincoln Day dinner down in Havelock, back on April 22nd of this year, there was a pretty strong disagreement, and explain to us what exactly happened that night as the dinner was ending. I actually talked to the district director for the Greg Murphy campaign, and I tell you, she felt very, very intimidated. I don't think it was you so much as a couple of gentlemen that were there with you. She just felt like they were getting in her space. To the point when I was talking to this woman, she called me with a story, but she literally, and I don't think it was a fake, Tony, she was so upset she was in tears by the end of the phone call. What exactly happened that night?
Yeah, so I went to shake Greg Murphy's hand, just give him that courtesy. And he turned his back on me. And I was like, okay, I walked off. I spoke to, the district director, Lindy Robinson.
Mm-hmm.
And, here's a funny fact that you're not going to hear. But when I was running the 4th, I've known Lindy for a couple of years. She took me around and introduced me to some of Greg's donors.
Well, I think that's one of the reasons she's so surprised that what happened on the 22nd.
Well, so a lot of it's been very much exaggerated to the point in which the 1st District candidate, Sandy Smith, called me and told me that she heard that it got so out of hand that Greg Murphy punched me in the face. So that's how out of control this story was. I talked to Lindy. It was no big deal. The other two gentlemen that supposedly accosted her were never even close to her.
Well, she said that she felt like they were in her space. So those are...
And, you know, I mean, I don't know what the definition of someone's space is, but I know that Greg Murphy has flat out lied about what happened that night. There were at least 40 other people in that building, and the only people that corroborate his story are his staunch supporters. Other folks, now, so there's been an investigation by a third party, a private investigator. They're still waiting on the video camera footage because supposedly Lindy had to be escorted to her car because they were so afraid of what could happen in the parking lot. The video surveillance is going to show a very opposite story of that. But the private investigator didn't just interview the folks that were there. Former Representative, NC Representative Mike Speciale, who is very well known for being an honest man, was present. He saw nothing, heard nothing. If there was an altercation that scared people so badly, why didn't everyone else, except for a couple of people from Greg Murphy's camp, why didn't they see it? Like I said, Michael was there, his wife was there. Who else? The GOP chair was there. We spoke for 20 minutes after the so-called incidents after Greg left. Let's face it, in this day and age, right, it was goodbyes. People were taking photographs. Right. Cameras were everywhere. Why isn't this on video? Everything else is on video.
Well, they would say it would happen as the event was closing down.
Well, yeah, it was a photo op. Everyone was taking pictures and shaking hands and all that. Cameras were everywhere. So why wasn't it caught on anyone's camera? Not a single person. It's just not plausible. It didn't happen.
I hope you had a good time because we're out of time. We've got to take another break. Our producer's going to go bananas with me. Real quickly, though, it's TonyCowden.com. Real easy to remember.
That's right.
Tony, let me just say, sorry to cut you off, Benny, but thanks for running. I say it to all the candidates, Democrats, independents, conservatives. You put yourself out there, you make yourself vulnerable, and thank you also for your service. Do appreciate it.
No thanks needed on either one. We need it.
Stay with us, Benny. I'll be right back.
We're on location today at Fabric and Home Furnishings, Arlington Village on Arlington Boulevard here in Greenville. One of my favorite places in town, one of my favorite people in town. My buddy Lisa Pendry is here. And Lisa, when I walked in this morning, the place always looks great, but there's something new here. You got a brand new room. Tell us what's going on.
We do, Henry. We are opening a Norwalk gallery, and we are so excited because this company is so custom. Been in business since 1902, built in Norwalk, Ohio. Tons of wood colors to choose from, over 900 fabric choices, and I've got a design team that can make it fabulous and help you find unique styles.
So when you say custom, a custom furniture line, what does that mean exactly?
You can literally choose the cushion, the fabric. You can even choose the thread color with this company. So wood choices, amazing fabrics, put 3 fabrics on one sofa, as much fun as you want to have.
And that's what people want these days. They want it to be exactly the way they want it, so you can get that with Norwalk.
You can.
All right, what else is new? You've always got some other interesting things going on here.
Well, we have some new fabrics that have arrived, but I've also, in this new showroom, I've added a friend of mine that's opened a company in Hickory, North Carolina called Hickory Luxe. Done business with him for a long time, but we're adding to that because he can deliver in 6 to 8 weeks instead of 8 months like some of these companies are, doing right now.
And as we always say, Fabric and Home Furnishings is a furniture store and so much more. And the so much more is you guys offer design services. I know you're a designer yourself. You have a design team here, so you can offer that full service for people.
I do. I've got the best design team ever. We do commercial.
All right, welcome back. Apparently some technical difficulties with the not having the spots fired. So anyway, Benny and I are back. By the way, do want to make mention, this was a breaking story, but we had Tony Cowden in, and we really didn't have time to get to it. But and Tony was talking about people, on the take up in the federal government. National Review released a story that was originated by an organization called Open the Books. It's a nonprofit government watchdog organization dedicated to investigating and disclosing the many ways in which government spends and wastes money. Guess who has been getting paid off since the early 2000s? Well, 2009 through 2014 both Anthony Fauci and former NIH Director Francis Collins have received royalty payments from pharmaceutical companies over all those years. I mean, this is suspicions confirmed. This is unbelievable. Anthony Fauci, according to their report, director of the National Institute of Allergy and Infectious Diseases and the highest paid federal bureaucrat, received, now we don't know how much each payment was, but received 23 royalty payments. Francis Collins, from 2009 to 2021, received 14 payments. Now, stop and think about the fact that there is a general estimate that total royalties paid between 2010 and 2020 were $350 million from pharmaceutical companies. And here's the big thing. Now, I understand if you're a scientist and you've come up with, some great discovery, yeah, you ought to be getting some sort of royalty. They weren't scientists. No. They were in administration.
And I saw as financial disclosure, you don't get that wealthy by just even being the highest paid employee.
$30 billion.
What do you see when you imagine life on the coast? Is it salty or sweet? Is it refined or a bit wild? Perhaps it's the perfect combination of everything you ever dreamed of. This is the very best of the best of living on the coast. Bow Coast.
Well, folks, it's only 8 a.m. and it's going to be another hot one. Today's high is 85 degrees with lows ranging in the upper 50s. Tomorrow's more of the same, plus some light wind coming in from the northeast. Coming up at 8:30, Paul's got an exclusive
Babe,
heartwarming
it's
story.
8 a.m.
Fried chicken, better with Pepsi.
And we're on location at one of my favorite places in the whole planet because this is some of the best food you're ever going to eat in your life. We are at Nino's on Red Banks Road in Greenville. It's one of my hangouts. It's one of the places that I love. I got my friend Pietro Pasalacqua. How'd I do?
You did great.
Let's talk about the food. What makes this place? I know it's special Italian from authentic Italians, but tell us why it's so special.
Because everything we do, it's really what we came up on the menu from what we did at home, from my grandparents, my parents. So it's exactly what we eat at home, and that's the way we cook. That's why it's special.
And the atmosphere in this place is special also. From the bar to the two dining areas, you got two different